The next thing we're going to look at is the parts of the hoof and then how we're going to kind of start our trim. So we're going to kind of do those two together. So the foot is cleaned up, but I want to do a little bit more with my hoof knife, and I'm going to clean up any of these little tags on the frog. That's your hoof part number one, is this big central part, this big, he's got a really nice, McKinley's got a really, really nice frog. We're going to clean up just any little bits and pieces that are here that don't want to be here. And then I'm going to find the point of my frog, where that tip is, because that's one of my techniques that I use, one of my guidelines that I use for being able to trim. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a nipper or a knife run around here just to clean up any dead sole that doesn't really want to be here. And I'm going to start to expose different parts of the foot in the process. Okay, so one of our parts of our tools is our hoof knife. The other thing we'll go over next is our hoof nipper. It's sharp, super sharp. We want to make sure that this foot is nice and cleaned up so we don't run into any rocks or other debris that could dull our nipper. And so we're going to take a little nipper run here. We keep it flat against the wall so that we don't bevel or dip anything, since he's getting a shoe put back on him. McKinley's taking a big sigh. He says, I like my spa time. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, remember we talked about two different rasps. This is my white one. It's the one that I call it's pure. That's how I remember. And it only gets to touch hoof. It doesn't get to touch nails. And I'm going to start to level out my foot. And then after that, we'll talk about all of our guidelines and our points of our guidelines, but we'll also talk about the hoof parts of the hoof that you guys went over, that you have a sheet on, that I know you have a sheet on, because I saw it. Okay, so let's talk about, I may miss a couple because I don't have the chart in front of me, but we're going to talk about the hoof wall. Everything outside here, right, is our hoof wall. Okay, you can see the edge of it right in here as we go, and then we get into the what's called the lamini and the white line. That's that inside here, and he doesn't have a really well-defined white line. His tends to get a little bit gunky just because of all the wet right now, and so you can start to see the little fibers here in the lamini as he stretches a little bit. Okay, so that's our white line. We have the points of our heels are back here. And remember when we talked about hoof balance, we talked about a 50-50 ratio from the center of rotation of the foot, which we can find as we move our way down the bars. These little fish hook things are called bars. Okay, we have the lateral sulcuses, we have the central sulcus, which his is pretty well kind of hidden, so that's good. There's not a lot of gunk and stuff that can get in there. We have the sole, which is everything down around here, these bars. So we're going to look and we're going to see how we did on our trim. If this is kind of the point we're trimming around, we're pretty good at 50-50 in front. He tends to want to run a little bit more forward, so that's going to change how we put our shoe position in there. Okay, we have the back of our heel, we have our bulbs of the heel and the digital cushion back here. Okay, and those are our main parts of our foot. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to shape up a shoe, figure that out, and then we'll show you how we nail it on.